You don't know how amazing you are. You might not see it in the mirror, but ooh, it's never been clearer.
Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tomlin. And sitting to my left is the brains behind the Act Out Podcast. The brains and also like
the beauty.
Muscle and the... I was going with the beauty too. I was getting there. The beauty. My wife, Kaylin Whitlock Lane Tomlin. I suppose we'll talk about a lot of things today. Maybe how we met and how all true great 21st century romance starts. Tinder. Probably talk about mother-in-laws. Who doesn't like talking about that? And a little bit about our journey from Atlanta to Norfolk, both literally and figuratively. So let's roll the tape to right now. Hey, Kaylin.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time here. This is exciting.
What's it like being on this side of the camera?
Lights are brighter. Lights are a lot brighter over here. No, I like it. It's interesting. I have enjoyed watching you from behind the camera, but I'm here today. So
You've been behind the camera every single episode. What's been your thoughts of like how have you thought about the season so far?
Well, for the first 3 episodes, I didn't know where the zoom button was on the camera and was really just like touch the button and hope it doesn't explode.
I didn't know what I was doing either.
It's okay. We've learned a lot as we've gone, but it's been, really the idea started in June and then we were kind of working behind the scenes and gathering and getting all the pieces in place. And we really started filming in August is kind of when
it was fast. It was fast. We make moves fast.
We do. It's actually pretty typical of us to make big decisions quickly, but that's fine. We'll get into that later. But we kind of, the idea came in June and then spent the summer working and figuring out what that would look like. And then middle of August, we flew to Atlanta and started our whirlwind kind of media blitz. And we were in Atlanta, Minneapolis, Atlanta, Louisville, Indiana.
And then back to Norfolk.
Oh, and then and then drove to Norfolk. Yeah.
What was that like in 14 days? Was it 14 days? That was a whirlwind.
It was a blur.
So many airports, so many like missed calls with the lost bags. On LinkedIn, one of I think your job title is chaos wrangler.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well,
and am I the chaos?
Definitely part of it for sure. So we are a traveling podcast, as we just talked about, went to all these different cities. So figuring out logistics of that. And we also have a toddler. We have a 2-year-old toddler that is with us traveling on all of these journeys. Luckily he's occupied while we're actually working and having the conversations, but he is very much with us. And he is very opinionated and busy and just much
like his mom.
2.5. Yes, he is 2.5 and living his best life. But so I don't know. There's a lot of really fun parts that I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed learning new skills. I've enjoyed watching you grow and have confidence and talk to different people. I've enjoyed hearing the different people's stories because all of our episodes have been so different and such different people. And they all have their own unique stories, but it's what I've seen. And as I'm behind the camera, what I normally see is that there's a moment when all of these people are talking about their passions, and whether it's the stock market or education or help serving people or 80s VHS deathmatch, it doesn't matter what it is. They're all passionate. There is just this light, this glow from every single guest talking about something that they love. And even, Johnny Danger, Mr. John Donegan, afterwards, he said, "Thanks for letting me gossip about education for an hour."
That was a fun chat.
That was a fun. They've all been very interesting and different, and I've learned a lot. And so maybe that's the hardest part, is realizing that I can't actually like laugh or cry or make the emotions as part of the conversation, that I'm kind of behind the scenes. But it's been.
I was wondering why none of my jokes were landing. You actually found them funny?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I laugh, but it's No, it's been a wonderful experience. From August until now, until November. But it's also been fun to travel with you and travel with Camden and do this all together because it's cool. And I think it's a cool example for Camden too, to say life can look different. And he thinks life is so cool. He gets to be in hotels all the time.
He gets to push the elevator button.
Oh, wow. It's really cool that you get to go downstairs and have waffles in the morning. Like you push the button, you're in your jammies, you go downstairs, you have waffles, and it's fantastic.
He does have a pretty cool life.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different elements of what I've enjoyed, but it's been meeting new people, working with great people. Like it's just been, I've enjoyed it.
You and I have been together for almost 10 years, married 7.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite introduction story. How did we meet?
Swiped right on Tinder.
Where all great romances begin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Ours did.
What was your first impression of me?
Well, very, very first impression, your first message, you were talking about marriage. Being a relationship together.
Yes.
So that was like right off the bat, I was like, you know what? He's saying what he wants. He is not playing games and he's to the point. But I mean, we also had a good time like texting and I enjoyed our back and forth banter. Then when, there's been different phases. So yes, I'll go with banter and the fact that you mentioned our future together in the very first text message.
Well, not the very first text message.
Very first Tinder message.
Yes.
So like the very first impression, the very first time you're like, hey, there's a girl that I want to talk to. I'm going to talk about our future.
Yeah.
Bold move. It worked.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Didn't even know it was a move at the time. I just, I saw the thing on your Tinder profile. I was like, oh, this is a good way of having an introduction. And I'm glad it panned out.
What was it? What was the line on my Tinder profile?
You almost ran over Jason Sudeikis.
Yes.
The national treasure, the Kansas City icon himself.
The main event.
No, that's me. Let's not overpraise the man. He's just in Kansas.
That is true. I did almost run over Jason Sudeikis. And Jason, if you're listening, one day we'd love to have you on the podcast to talk about it. We would. We're grateful you're still here, and I would love to apologize to you in person.
I don't think she meant it, though.
I do.
I don't think she would.
But I'm in the text message, or in the Tinder message, Adam said, I'm glad you did not run over Jason Sudeikis. I like his movies, and I don't think we'd have a future together if we did. So, Jason,
there would also be some like legal practicalities there. Like you would be in prison, and so we couldn't have did it. Like so, I was actually. I don't
think so. Don't try to legal lawyer your way out of this one.
I'll legal lawyer myself out of anything I want.
Nope. But yes, Jason Sudeikis actually is a very important part of our relationship.
And also Prince.
Yeah. Oh, we're just gonna go right to that. Yeah.
I was gonna go to that. I mean, it's the first date. It's not like I'm jumping over years.
Yes. Yes.
Did you want to get into the second day we messaged? What was that like?
No, I was gonna tell the Jason Sudeikis story. No, I won't. Jason, we'll have you on the podcast one day and we'll tell you about it. And I'll apologize for almost running you over.
She won't mean it though.
I will. But anyway, yes, our first date. Our first date was April 23rd, 2016, and it was a couple days after Prince had died. And so we had gone to P&P in the Georgian Terrace and then went and played pool at Midtown Tavern. And actually, there was people were doing karaoke, and there was super bad karaoke, and someone was doing Purple Rain, like pretty off key.
Purple Rain is
a very hard song.
Yeah, it's a hard song to do, like, even if you're good.
Yeah.
But particularly if you have no talent. So, like I can't really speak to it that much, but it's not a good song.
It's not a good song. But anyway, someone was singing karaoke. And so then that kind of became our song. Or, when it came time to have a first dance song, we said, well, seems like Purple Rain is the obvious choice. So it was. So Purple Rain was our first dance song.
What was your impression of me as we first kind of started dating? Had a lot of work to do, I'm assuming. Like,
I always saw who you were beneath the surface. There was a lot of masking for sure, and a lot of like trying to be someone and posturing a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should backtrack. So whenever you and I first met, I was still in law school. I was finishing up my third semester. Finishing up my third year, second semester of my third year.
So you were like about to be done.
Yeah. So I was about to be done. And so I remember texting you in my wills, estates, and trust class. That will be foreshadowing. Like, I'm so thankful that I don't have to like pay attention to this stupid class right now, and I can talk to you. So yeah, I remember being in law school, and like at that point, I was so close to being an attorney. And so you saying that I was like masking, posturing, absolutely, like, because I had in my head what an attorney was supposed to be and look like, and so I was trying to do that like to the utmost. And I thought I was doing pretty well, but I guess you saw that I was masking.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen through you since the beginning.
Oh.
I see who you are. I see you beneath the surface.
And who am I?
I think you're gonna have to figure that one out for yourself. No, but I've always seen that you're a kind person. I've always seen that you are compassionate. I've always seen that you are caring, and that you think about other people, and that you factor them into your decisions. Yeah.
You said all the sweet stuff. I was like, you could have said some of the like. I was very tightly wound whenever we first started. Well, actually, I would say for the first like 9/10 of our relationship, I was pretty tightly wound. My bad. Actually, in my defense, I had no idea. I was so like.
You had a back surgery. You had a back fusion.
Yeah, no, I did. I
also like told you multiple times.
I was like 35 going on 78.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you still put up with me.
Yep. I did. I knew what I saw underneath the surface. I knew that there was a lot that you were figuring out, and that as you were coming into this new role, like law school is intense and grueling, and that's like a whole separate experience. But then being like, okay, I'm actually done with law school. I've already completed that, but now I'm on to my like next phase. I knew you were searching, and so I was happy to be part of the journey.
Whenever I became an attorney, I thought that was like going to make me like feel complete. And so whenever I was sworn in, and I like woke up the next day and I felt like the absolute same as I did the day before, I was like, oh, well, that is very unfortunate. Like I thought that made me a fraud. And so it like made me feel like I had to perpetuate the, like the masking even more that apparently you saw right through.
Yeah. I did. But then I guess the next thing that happened in our relationship is that, so we started dating in April of 2016, election day 2016. So November of 2016, my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. You had met her, you'd flown to New Jersey literally the day after taking the bar.
I think meeting your mom was harder than taking the bar.
Probably. But you'd only really met her once.
Yeah.
But she and I were really close, so she and I talked all the time. And so, but she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, election day, 2016. So then what I thought of you became different in that moment, because it was very much a taking care of me as I was taking care of my mom.
Yeah, that's like kind of how I saw my my role at that point. Because so your mom, before election day, she had called you maybe a couple of days before. You and I were in the theater watching The Accountant. And whenever you got the call from your mom saying that like her stomach was hurting or something, that she was going to go to the hospital. And I remember, like how concerned you were. And it seems like a switch kind of flipped whenever like she was diagnosed, and like you immediately went into to action mode. And I mean, I was like really impressed with like how you were strong, but in like a very like compassionate way. And to like see how you were able to like be with your mom and able to like, like give space to her. while she was being G. And, you handled it with like a lot of grace. And I remember I'll just help her out. Like she's got it under control here. But yeah, you were always very impressive.
Thank
you. I think you were like your mom's, like you were her cheerleader, her organizer. You had to wear a lot of hats there. Do you think that like you did some of that to like maybe help distract from the diagnosis?
I mean, yeah, I never actually looked up. I mean, it took a long time before I actually looked up pancreatic cancer, but she'd already had cancer. She'd had breast cancer in 2008. So it was not unfamiliar. It was very, okay, we're doing this again. And it felt right back where we were, right? Tests, doctors, oncologists, surgeries, like,
yeah,
it was a very familiar, repeated pattern for me.
I only saw that kind of journey from, like beside you, but not fully immersed in it. But like, it is so exhausting to be a part of that. And
I was living in Atlanta. Like,
yeah.
I was in Atlanta. She was in New Jersey.
You were in Atlanta working full time
On the advertising career that I had been dreaming of since 8th grade.
Mm.
And so it wasn't easy, but I did it. And I was back and forth between Atlanta and New Jersey as often as I could.
Yeah.
We were also really lucky. My mom had an extensive group of friends and family and people who would take care of her. So if I couldn't be there, there was someone that could be there. And people would come from all over across the country to take her to Johns Hopkins or her treatments and stay with her. So beyond grateful for all of those wonderful people.
G's cancer was probably one of the biggest focal points up until even after we got married, even that like being there for her kind of like was was one of the most important things for us.
Well, so she got diagnosed in 2016, and then was immediately having surgeries and treatments and chemo and all these different things and trials and stuff like that. And so we started dating in 2016. We got engaged exactly a year later. And then...
No, not exactly a year later.
364 days later. And then as we were looking at wedding dates, there's kind of we knew we wanted to get married at Ponce City Market. There's sort of 2 months you can get married outside in Atlanta. And so one is... And Ponce City Market's like an outdoor wedding venue on the roof of a building in Atlanta. But April and October. And so when we got engaged, I immediately looked and I said, oh, April 21st is a Saturday. We got engaged married on the 21st, or first date on the 23rd, engaged on the 22nd. So cute. Married on the 21st. And so we booked it. But then that time actually was the perfect time because it was like between her treatments and was perfectly placed. It's actually been told to me that I waited too long, or someone thought I waited too long, and that I was doing a bad job of planning because she wouldn't be there and sick. And I was like, no. And it was, the thing is, it was actually the perfect time because it was perfectly between her treatments. She was able to be fully there, present. She had a great time. She gave a great speech.
Yeah, she did.
Held court. Like, she was dancing the cha-cha slide. Had a great time. I mean, truly, it was wonderful. And I think the timing of that is not an accident because it was exactly where it needed to be. Because pretty soon after that, she started a clinical trial. So that was April of 2018. And then she had a hernia surgery in Thanksgiving of that year.
On our wedding day, she was like starting to hold her stomach. She was holding her stomach where she thought the hernia was.
Yeah.
Or where the hernia was.
But... And so then she had hernia surgery Thanksgiving of 2018, and she never got better from then. And then we were there several times, and ultimately it February of 2019 is when she passed.
We got a call on Valentine's Day of 2019, and it was one of her friends that was like, something's not right. And just the sound in her voice, I think you knew that something serious was going on.
Well, and I had already known. We'd already been there several times, and all of these various different friends. Every time someone would leave, they would all call me.
Yeah.
I knew that she had not really been she had stopped responding to me in the same way on the phone. And so it was something I already knew, but it was, vocal confirmation. And it was this friend being like, you need to get here immediately. Yeah. And we did. And so we drove through the night. And it's, about 14 hours. Yeah. And we didn't have Camden, we had Ellie, our dog. And so I think we thought we were going to be gone for a few days at best.
I think we packed for literally a few days.
Yeah. I mean, it was really whatever we could kind of throw in a suitcase. Drove through the night. And as part of all of this, we had been told by the nursing home where she was in for respite care, we needed to start considering palliative care. And I was like, great, let's do it. And so we actually had an appointment with palliative care at 9 a.m. that next morning. Mm-hmm. And as we were coming into New Jersey, I don't know, it was like 6:30 in the morning, we knew life was about to get really crazy. And we said, we need to eat. Yeah. And so we stopped at a Cracker Barrel and we ate breakfast. And that was
Cracker Barrel in New Jersey.
Cracker Barrel in New Jersey is actually like kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
But we did. We stopped at the Cracker Barrel, ate breakfast, and that was like probably the last real meal we had for weeks.
Yeah. We got there February 15th, and we were in New Jersey all the way. Your mom passed on February 19th?
February 21st.
February 21st, okay.
Also at the time was that my grandpa, my mom was the only child, I'm the only child. My grandpa was also on home care and hospice in Ohio with full-time caretakers and all of that.
Yeah, so your mom just passes February 21st. February 22nd, you are now the power of attorney for your grandpa, and you have to make healthcare decisions for him.
Yep, because my mom also had it in her documents that we put together for her.
Yeah.
That was something that would transfer. That like power of attorney for my grandpa transferred to me immediately.
And then
I also became a landlord.
Yes.
Because my mom had a house in New Jersey. The house she had 3 tenants. So became a landlord, became power of attorney for my grandpa, who was 97, on hospice care in Ohio.
And you were supposed to also take care of your mom's estate.
And then I was also in charge of my mom's estate and packing up her house. And at some point I was going to have to go back to work.
Yeah. So you had no responsibilities whatsoever.
None. But it was really difficult. I did have to tell my grandpa. He didn't really understand. I kept trying to keep him informed, but he was also had dementia at the time, so he didn't really understand. But I did have to tell him that she passed. It was pretty difficult. Again, I don't know that he fully understood. Go visit him a couple later just to kind of make sure that everything was in somewhat of a good spot. Super glad we did.
Yeah.
Because so we're now every day we kind of had a mission at my mom's house. We were like, okay, today we're going to pack up these cabinets. Okay, today we're going to take these things and see if we can go to an antique store. Okay, we're going to go to the bank this day and learn about this. And throughout the whole time, we never knew what we needed. It was snowball information.
Yeah.
We'd ask and then we'd kind of learn, okay, this is the next thing we need to do. And then we'd ask another question. And then we'd just kept gathering information. And then you get a little bit more time. And then you're like, okay, let me try and do this task.
It felt like you were trying to dig yourself out of a really, really deep hole. And, well, you probably wouldn't, but I don't know, you could start chipping stuff and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I can see a little bit of a path forward. There's a little bit of daylight.
And so we did that for a month, really. Things started to feel a little bit more normal of we're just kind of, okay, this is what we're doing. We're living in New Jersey. We're, handling all of this.
I was a New Jerseyan.
You were a New Jerseyan.
I'm sorry, New Jerseyite.
New Jerseyite.
What do we call ourselves?
We're from Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mess around with that.
Yeah, we are.
And so we were kind of getting into a groove and things were getting as many things taken care of as possibly could. And then we get the call from Ohio and they say that they're putting my grandpa on code reverence. And I didn't know what
I
that
had
was.
no idea
I
what
didn't know
that
what that
meant.
was, but it doesn't.
It didn't sound very good.
It's not.
Though.
It doesn't take an idiot or genius route that it's not good. So we immediately, drop
Code reverence apparently means nearly 3 weeks later.
It was
though.
yes, it was 2 weeks later of just basically sitting on our hands, not really sure what to do
in the middle of nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, with like nothing
No
to do, no
reception.
service. Like, I mean, we were truly just sitting on our hands with this whole experience. Luckily, we did have some wonderful friends that volunteered to step in where we had left off on the house in New Jersey, because we were going to have things being shipped to Atlanta. That was anything that was coming to Atlanta at the time. We were just renting a house, a small house. Anything that was coming was going in one pod, and the pod was coming, and the day the pod was getting picked up were right in the middle of April, when my grandpa was still very much present.
Yes.
We couldn't leave. And
Nope.
so at first, my friend offered, she said, "Where can I go? Do you want me to come to Ohio, or do you want me to go to New Jersey?" And I was like, "We don't need anyone else in Ohio sitting around doing nothing."
Yeah. No.
And I am not usually one to accept or ask for help. And so then I was like, "No, it's fine. We've got it." And I waited about 10 minutes, and I called her back and I said, "If you could go to New Jersey, that would be huge. And make sure that pod doesn't get picked up completely empty. That would be huge." And so then 2 wonderful friends, packed we'd kind of already had things separated and kind of knew what we wanted, but went and they packed that pod for us, which was huge. And they did a fantastic job. If there was things that didn't make the cut, everything that we have is what we're supposed to have. And we are super grateful for them doing that. But we were in Ohio, and then my grandpa ultimately passed away April 9th, and we planned my mom's celebration of life April 13th.
Yep.
And then my grandpa's funeral was the next day.
Yeah, April 14th.
Was April 14th. And then
Very different experiences.
very different. It's okay. They needed to be. My mom's was a celebration of life, and we had everyone wear red, tell stories, and it was
Great.
It was great. It was perfect for her. With my grandpa, it all kind of happened, and I again am the one making all these decisions, and I was decisioned out at that point.
We were so exhausted. That was 2 months of the most like intense, like emotional state that you could be in. And we saw, I mean, like your grandpa literally died in front of me. Like I watched him die.
And made eye contact with him.
Yeah, he was scared. And like we were there for like really bad moments for her. And so I think that at that point, like we were at our wits' end.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so we get time to start making the funeral for my grandpa, and I'm not a religious person, and so any of the songs I didn't really care. I just said, I want Amazing Grace. Like all I can manage to think about Grace. And then we're in the mausoleum, and the funeral director is chain smoking at the back of the mausoleum during the service, when the pastor who's met my grandpa one time, wearing ill-fitting clothes in all capacity.
And time out. We're going to have to jump back to these clothes. Okay. Man, but go ahead.
Anyway, the funeral director's chain smoking in the back of the mausoleum. The weird pastor's giving a weird sermon at this funeral. It's an open casket, which no one really asked me about. Yeah. And so I was like weirded out by that. And then, okay, so the funeral director, I'm like, great, we're going to have Amazing Grace any minute now. Let's just have Amazing Grace. And then I hear the like cassette tape go into the boom box, click shut, and it's the 8-minute instrumental version of Amazing Grace playing from a boom box. It sounds like it's in a tin can across the street. Instrumental. 8 minutes of instrumental Amazing Grace. I lost it. And I did not crying. I just started laughing. Yeah. Straight up was like, this is the most ridiculous shit I have ever done.
It's a really good thing that laughing hysterically and crying hysterically look identical.
It's true. And I was just like, I can't believe this is what we're doing. It was, and I wanted military honors for him. We got
and the Boy Scouts came.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts maybe would have been like an upgrade. Like this was the most ragtag bunch of like, I guess veterans, but I don't know.
And we had been led to believe that the pastor who went over, did the eulogy, like, was your grandpa's pastor. That's
Yes.
what we had thought. He had been there, I think, a couple of days before and gave Chuck communion, just to make sure, I guess, sins are absolved. I don't know how it works. Not going to ask. But he comes up, and I think he may have gotten dressed in the dark while having an epileptic fit, because his pants were about 13 sizes too big. Like, I think the Jolly Green Giant had the original suit. And then he may have stolen his toddler son's dress coat and tie.
He'd match, like they were from the same closet.
No, definitely not.
And
Have like moved he could not have touched his fist together without breaking the jacket.
No, for sure not.
And the tie I don't even think the tie made it blow his nipples.
Barely. It was more of a bib situation.
No, I don't like to make fun of appearances. I'm only doing what just happens after this. What is his eulogy?
So, you would expect some like personal stories of my grandpa and any sort of decent presentation of a person's life. No, this pastor, this was when we realized that he'd literally never met my grandpa, because he just read the obituary word for word from the paper. And to the point where he almost said, like, Kaylin, husband Adam of Atlanta, Georgia, but like pause because he's like, oh, I'm not supposed to say that part. It was what it was. We laughed through the whole thing.
He then gave an altar call.
He did.
Casket call? Is that what you would call that? A casket call?
It was inappropriate. It was if you want to be reunited with Chuck, like, now's the time to come accept Jesus into your heart.
Yeah.
It's just not the time.
It was weird.
It's just not.
I was really surprised no one that offered. I thought souls would have been saved that day.
It was
It was
offer.
a bad call.
But also I will say the open casket, even though I was not super fan of it, we put my grandpa in a suit and had a skiing tie, and skiing was a really big part of his life. And he skied, well into his 90s. He pretty much had to stop when the double knee replacement said no. But one of his ski friends came and saw the tie. And so he stopped me in the receiving line and he said, I gave him that tie. And I was like, okay, so there you go. That's the reason we have to have an open casket. But they creep me out. Like, I'm not, it's not my favorite. And so, but 2 months, it was 2 very intense, brutal months of just never ending task list. And what I remember about you is that I would be trying to go do a task and you'd go, it's already done. And so that was something that had never happened to me before in my life. I had never had a person anticipate what I needed or what I was thinking about in that way.
I'm so glad that I could have been there for you in that way.
I couldn't have done it without you.
No, actually, I was about to say I saw much hurting, but I didn't, because you really didn't show much. But I knew that you had to have been hurting because of like how much you were doing. Like, you were just nonstop going. And so I knew that, like, okay, yeah, like she, if she does stop, she's going to be like faced with a really big ball of grief. And so, yeah, I wanted to do everything I could to help you out. And I'm glad that I was able to do it in a small way.
It wasn't small. It was pretty big.
So after that, like, we ended up having to sell your mom's.
So then,
I'm sorry, we had to be responsible for your mom's estate and your grandpa's estate, both.
Yep.
In that time.
And then
period.
as we were doing that, we decided, why not just add more to the mix? And so we sold my mom's house and bought our house. And we're so grateful that from the sale of her house, we were able to buy our house. I mean, it was direct, like, we would not have been able to buy our house.
Oh, no, not at all.
That.
If it weren't for Jill.
So it's a little bit difficult because our whole life is because of her.
Yeah.
It's because of us. Like, we've definitely worked, but there's definitely a acknowledgement that her not being here has given us a life.
She sacrificed for us. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm extremely grateful for G.
And she had all these complicated plans of how to sell the house or do a tax deferral and all that, because we had the tenants. And so it was not a straightforward real estate transaction. And so it actually worked out better for us, how it out, than it would have if she had tried to do the exact same transaction. So we're extremely grateful because we wouldn't be here. I mean, truly, our life would look very different if it weren't for her.
The house that we bought in 2019, we bought it in June.
Yep.
In
so
June?
we weren't planning on it, but it ended up being that we sold and bought our house in the same day at the end of June, which was, they were actually very much in sync. Like I would get papers for one that I had to sign, and then I'd get almost the exact same papers for the other. Inspections were on the same day. Like they were just very the same. It made me familiar with the process for sure, because then I was like, oh, okay, so then this happens. Okay, so then this happens. But that's the first half of 2019. And we kind of said we didn't want 2019 to be a year, when you look back at it, that's a shitty year. That's a sucky year. Like, and put a big red X through it. And so we wanted to even it out. And so we traveled as much as we possibly could. And that's when we started doing the pack up and goes, the surprise trips through the travel agency. We went to, not through the travel agency, but we went to Vancouver. We went to San Francisco. That was pack up and go. In San Francisco, we went to New Orleans. We went to Vienna and Budapest for Christmas. And our goal was to make it the year okay.
Yeah.
And I think we did a good job. I think it was a concerted effort to make sure that when we looked back at 2019, that we didn't, the year sucked.
Yeah. No, the first half of that.
The first half was very intense,
difficult.
for sure. But we wanted to make sure that we were not writing off the entire year, because I also just don't really agree with that of like, oh, this was a really bad week or month or day or anything, because I feel like there are every moment of, say, a day, if you say this was a really bad day, I feel like every moment of every day is not bad. And when you start to look for the good moments, you realize that there's actually more good moments than bad. Even if it's a hard day or there's been hard things that happen, percentage wise, it usually is neutral or positive. There are more neutral or positive things that happen than negative. But if your brain is focusing on the negative, that's what you only pay attention to. Yeah. And so I think that for any time period, whether it's a day, a week, a month, whatever. And so if it's a year, there's a lot of things that happen in a year to be able to say that whole year sucked. Yeah. It kind of like negates really positive things that happened, because we did have positive things. I mean, even during that time, we had positive things that happened. We had people that showed unbelievable support for us. And we felt our community so strongly then. And so I don't want to negate that and be like, 2019 sucked. Even the first half, like it was super hard and we did a lot, but the goal was to not have the entire year be a wash. So we traveled. We tried to even it out. Then it was so fun. It was wonderful to be able to spend time together. I mean, especially after all the cancer and all of that. And then it was COVID. And I hate to say, because of where we were in our life, like we didn't have Camden, we just got to kind of hang out at home and work on house projects. I'm so glad we did not have Camden, because I think we would have lost our minds. Oh, yeah. No way. And working from home, like I enjoyed the time, because for the first time we were able to sort of just be. We didn't really get that luxury when we first started dating. We didn't get that when we were first married. Like, it was nice to sort of have this forced, we just get to hang out. Yeah. We're just spending time together. And so, I don't know. I survived COVID 2020, but I enjoyed it. I don't want to say I thrived in COVID, but I really enjoyed it, because we got to just hang out, spend time together, and like I said, do house projects, dig up a tree. I think it was good that we were able to, and all of the things that people were stressed about. And I'm not trying to downplay COVID at all, because it was absolutely massive. I just know that how we were personally, it was not as much as other people. And because of all the world felt chaotic and no one knew what was going on and all those things, but just left that. I had just been in that phase for an entire year on a much more personal level. Yeah. That I was like, well, figure it out. Someone will figure it out. Either we stay in our houses forever, or there will be a solution. Like, this isn't how it ends, basically. So I enjoyed COVID times because I got to hang out with you and didn't kind of have to feel some of those other pressures.
Thank you. What did you think of me like during that time, mental health wise? Like, what did you think was going on? Because I really wouldn't tell you a lot. Like, whenever you would ask how I was. So.
I knew it was a sensitive subject, so I didn't really ask because I could tell that you were struggling and that you were hurting. You shut me out time I tried to ask about it, so it just kind of became something that I didn't ask about.
I didn't know how to like say even what was going on.
I mean, it was hard because I would be asking you questions and I would say what was like very obviously in front of me, and you would just be like, no, and kind of gaslight me. And so it was difficult for sure, but I was like, when he's ready, he'll be ready. When I gotta give face, I gotta let him process this. Trying to let you through that and try to give you the space to work through a lot of different aspects.
That would have to be very frustrating, would it not?
It was hard. But I loved you. I love you. And I believe in you. And so I believed and believe in you. And so I knew that you would figure it out when you were ready. And that it was not anyone else's choice other than yours. And that there was no other voice other than your own that you would listen to. So
I'll look back on that time. And I was ashamed of myself, like, then. And so I couldn't have told you, I feel like ashamed of myself or something. And so for me, I think what it was like essentially just trying to like be able to hide as much as because like I didn't even understand what was going on like inside of me in the first place. I just thought that I was like fundamentally messed up, and I didn't think there was really any like coming back from that. And so I was just trying to like make it up, and like maybe I could like be a like personal assistant to you or something, be able to help you out along the way. But like I thought that I was too messed up to be able to like really do anything. And I back on that, like there was a lot of shame and stuff. I think like what I'm the like most disappointed in was the fact that like the shame that I felt for myself made it to you seem like that I didn't appreciate you. That like kind of realizing that like that really hurt me, or that really hurt that like I could have acted like that and been just oblivious to like to your hurt. That's I would say that's probably the biggest regret during that time.
Well, you held it in that you ended up needing back surgery in 2021. And so that was another interesting time because you were basically incapacitated.
Oh, yeah.
You lived in the tower, like we called it LRN. Living room was the like sitting room off of our bedroom that was only in the bedroom, and you couldn't move.
Yeah.
I mean, you were on a walker. At 35 years old, you were on a walker. You could come downstairs maybe one time a day. I mean, we had a 3,000 square foot house and we were living in maybe 600 square feet.
Yeah.
Because I moved my desk upstairs. I moved my computer. We had the freezer upstairs. Ellie was up there. Like, other than very basic things like having to take Ellie out of the front door, we go to the bathroom. We lived upstairs.
Yep.
That was really difficult for me because there was so much on me.
Oh God.
I mean, I was
you weren't really having to be a caretaker
and work full time, like work like a lot full time. And that was pretty hard. And so I said, we need to go to a therapist or we need to else out. So my two options were, we're going to see a psychic and we're going to see a therapist. And we saw both. And actually, that psychic in those readings is who told us that we would ultimately be moving to Virginia.
Sorry, so okay, the psychic said that we would be moving to
Virginia. And so were like, you were laid up, like you couldn't do anything, and then you didn't have surgery until November. But luckily, there was a lot of drama with the surgery and the staph infection.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the
that.
staph infection. So I was supposed to have I was supposed to have the surgery like in a couple of days. End up getting a staph infection from going to a pool.
No, you got a lidocaine patch,
Oh, yeah.
and then the lidocaine patch pulled off all the skin on your back. We didn't realize it, and then you got in the pool because that kind of took the pressure off of your back, and then you got a staph infection from in the pool where all that had happened. So then they couldn't do the surgery because then there was a staph infection, and that would be right into your spinal cord, and that's not good. And so then we had to keep waiting. And so it was like alternating appointments of like dermatologist, surgeon to see who, like, if it would be healed enough. And then finally it was like, they felt like it was safe to be able to do the surgery. And the surgery was fast. It was a spinal fusion. I was prepared to be doing stuff all day. So I had paperwork. I had all these tasks that I was ready to do. And then they called me and then they said, okay, Tomlin, back to the consult room. And I was like, he's done? I'm not ready. I have a lot of things I have to get done. And then
Does he have another vertebrae you can mess
like
with?
what are you doing? I got shit to do. And then you came out of the surgery, and once you went to the bathroom, that was sort of their marker. Mm-hmm. You were free to go, and you walked Ellie with me that night. We went home and you walked Ellie. I mean, I held the leash, but like you walked around the neighborhood, and that was the most that you had walked in a year.
Oh yeah, that was the first time I hadn't felt like pain in a year. Oh like, yeah, it was like sore because of the surgery, but like it was like you can always tell the difference between soreness and like pain, and that was like the first time that there wasn't actual pain. So yeah, I was really pumped about that walk. I remember that. Yeah,
I mean it was great. It felt like we'd turned over a new leaf, and it was really hard to see you in so much pain, and in such a low place. He didn't want to see anybody, so like we weren't really going anywhere. I wasn't really seeing anyone. It was pretty isolating for sure. A lot of pressure, but I wanted you to get better. I wanted to do whatever we needed to do to get you fixed and get your back. You were 35 years old. You were no. It was not okay. But luckily the surgery went really well. Here you are.
After the surgery, you and I we were talking about wanting to really start a family.
Yep. And so then that was actually something they asked during the surgery. They're like, oh, are you done having kids? And we're like, actually no, we haven't even started. And he's like, oh, okay, good to know. I'm not gonna do it this way because that will mean you can't have kids. So but then we did IVF, and luckily it took the very first time, and so that was 2022, and that was the day after 4th of July in 2022. And then that brought us to Camden in March of 2023, which is crazy.
Yeah, like that seems like 10 lifetimes ago.
It really does. All of these things that I've said have felt like 10 lifetimes ago. And then we had Camden, and we're thrust into newborn sleeplessness and all of that, and all of those fun new parent things that everyone gets to experience when they become a new parent. And
what was your the first time you got to hold him?
Well, he came out with fanfare because I ended up having to have a C-section after being in labor for 30 something. Can't even remember.
30
something years. Yeah. And so then it was non-emergency C-section. I'm on the table. Once it finally became clear that this was not going to happen, they were like, so C-section. I was like, yes, do whatever you need to do. They're like, so the operating room's open at 6. Are you busy? And I'm like, no, I have a hair appointment. Yes, of course. Of course I can do that.
Yeah.
And then they were very sweet, and they said, I know this wasn't the original plan, but it is what it is. And we're going to have a birthday party.
And by that point, I think we were both so
exhausted. But so then they do the surgery.
It's been a hard day
Everything's really happy. They kept the environment really positive.
Yeah.
And then they kind of handed him to me. And it was just very I was tired. I just looked at him and I was like, oh my God, this is here he is.
Yeah.
So it was, but tired. And we have
the picture. Yeah,
I was going to say, we have, they took a nurse was very sweet. One of the nurses was very sweet and took all these pictures. So we have many different angles, but the one that I've chosen to hang up and the one that I actually send to people and stuff like that is the one where I just look so tired. And one of my friends saw it and was like, nobody wants to see you, right? Like, they want to see the baby. You don't have to show this picture. But to me, it just like, it represented everything. And so to me, I was like, no, that's the C-section picture of like me just like, I can't believe it. So,
well, you had also just had your insides moved about so that another human being that had been leeching off of you for the past 9 months could be exercised from your body so that he could then continue to leech off of you for the next 18 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's parenthood for you. And so then I actually didn't like having to sit still. So that was the hardest thing for me. And once I felt okay, I was moving around that hospital room as much as I possibly could.
You got out a day early.
I did. Well, no, Camden kept us there the whole time. I could have gone.
I forgot about that. Man, I was so disappointed. Like, because you think you stopped taking pain medicine like the next day or maybe even like a few hours afterwards. And so you would take Tylenol and you would be up. Like, you helped me find an AirPod that I was like devastated that I lost for some reason.
Yeah, you couldn't find your AirPod. And the room was just really disorganized and it was driving me crazy. And so I had my pole because I was still attached to the pole. And I started like marching around the room and like picking things up and like changing the bed sheets and doing all this stuff. And the midwife comes in and she's like, so I was going to ask you how you are, but you seem good. I was like, oh yeah, I feel great. So I was very happy to be done with the process. Actually, the very first thing I ate was Jason's Deli sandwich because I couldn't have lunch meat. And, had a C-section. So then they told me that they'd use staples to close up the incision.
Jason's Deli also uses staples to staple their receipts to the bag.
Yes, they do. Funny you mentioned that because so then as I'm like organizing the room and all of that, I go to flip up the bed or like make the bed and I see a staple in the bed and I freak out and I was like, oh God, it's this for me. That's supposed to be here and not there. And so I called the nurse and I kind of explained it on the phone and I could tell by her tone of voice that she was a little like, what happened? What do you think? What? And I said, there's a staple on the bed. I think it may have come from my stomach. She's like, okay, helping a patient will be there like so fast. And then, she was pretty close. And then she looked and she checked the incision. She's like, no, that looks fine. And she looked and she's like, wait, this looks like a paper staple. And I was like, oh yeah, I was so excited about that Jason's Deli sandwich that I like ripped the bag open. And so it was not a staple from my wound. It was a staple from my sandwich, but all is well that ends well. And so then, we have Camden, we come home, we have Camden, and then inspiration hits us and we said, I think we want to move to Virginia. And
inspiration hits us so Atlanta kind of felt like just gotten too big.
Yeah, Atlanta felt like it got too big. Wanted a place where we could be like more walkable, closer to water. Didn't realize how stuck I felt in Georgia. You and I both have long lines of family lineage in Georgia. I had been there for 11 years after college. I was in the same kind of way that I was moving to London because I felt like Atlanta had nothing to offer me when I was 25. At 34th was feeling like it didn't really have that much to offer me. And so then we decided we were going to move to Virginia. And at the time we said, okay, in 2 years, we're going to move to Virginia. And I knew it wasn't going to be 2 years and you knew it wasn't going to be 2 years. And
I think I even said as much. Pretty sure I said it's not going to be 2 years, right?
Yeah. And I knew, but I was pretending. And it was 2 months. And then we packed up our house, rented it out to tenants, and then we moved to Virginia, to Norfolk, Virginia. But actually, when we decided to move here, neither of us had ever been, didn't know anybody here, didn't know anything about it. So we kind of decided we were going to move to Virginia. You go off and do your research. I go off and do mine. We come back together and we're like, I think Norfolk is actually where we want to be.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah. And then you went off and did your research. Went off and did mine. I was like, I actually think this neighborhood, I think that's where we want to be. Mm-hmm. And you were like, yes, actually, it's close to shops. It's close to restaurants. It's close to all these things.
Old neighborhood.
And so we were like, yes. And so we lived the Airbnb life for a while. We were in an apartment for a while. It's very humbling, but also a little bit refreshing to go from having a big house that you're in charge of to a Airbnb or a apartment where you can call maintenance and you're like, hey, something's broken, come fix this. But it's definitely reversal for sure, because you don't typically go back to an apartment until you're much older. And so it was nice. We kind of kept it simple, and in what we packed, we only brought the utmost necessities because we rented the house out furnished. Had a very organized, detailed method of what was needed in short-term.
So shocking. That's so unlike you.
Short-term, long-term, all of that. And it was really, really nice to just come and kind of start over in a brand new city. It was hard, but it was nice to start over. One of the things that made it easy was that it felt like it was kind of made for us, and it felt familiar from all these other places that we've all like, oh, we like the buildings in Asheville. Well, there's buildings here that were definitely built the same time period as Asheville. Oh, we like this part of this city. Well, this feels like that city. And so it just felt, even though it was a place that we hadn't been before, it felt like home. It felt right. It felt, this is where we were supposed to be. And it felt without a doubt that my mom had a very large hand in it. And it felt that there was like, she was making sure that we were getting welcomed to Norfolk. For example, even as we knew that we wanted to live in this one particular apartment, and as we were, going through the application process, we were going to be on the first floor. And I said, are you sure you don't have one more 2-bedroom available? And they said, actually, yes, the top floor corner unit just became available. And it's the same number as my mom's birthday. So it just, right. And then we had a beautiful apartment with gorgeous views around the city. That was perfect for us until we moved into our house.
And so our house, like, growing up as a kid, like the best houses in Cartersville were on Main Street, and they were all like older houses, like built in the like early 1900s and stuff. So I'd always been like drawn to like old houses, and really loved it. So us finding the house that we're in now, which was built in 1910. I love this house. Like it's cool to be able to be here, and like every time I like go up and down the stairs, like 5-year-old Adam is like so happy.
It's a cool house. It was about when we weren't necessarily looking to buy a house. We thought we were going to be in the apartment for at least another 6 or 7 months, and then life works out, and we moved in April of 2024. And so that's, I don't know, it's crazy. We love it, and we love being able to walk to places and love getting to know the area, and people all seem so friendly. I kind of look around all the time and I'm like, wow, we really did that. We really did a multi-state move with a infant and then toddler, because he was 6 months old when we were packing up, and then he was 13, 14 months when we were unpacking.
So hard.
It was so hard. It was so hard. But it was really nice when everything was finally back together. We had all of our stuff again. We could get the house set up. We sold the house in Atlanta. It felt like a new version of 2019. Where in 2019, we had all these logistics, and you kind of just have to do one step at a time. And we're going to do this. And so with a multi-state move, phase move, it was kind of that too. We're like, okay, today we're going to do this. Today we're going to do this. Today we're going to do this. And we kind of just get through it one step at a time. And it's not always easy, but that's kind of we've learned to operate is we just make big decisions and we just do it. And one of the driving things for me is that we can. And now that we've done so many very challenging, layered things, I'm like, oh, okay, that's no problem. Let's walk in the park compared to what we've done. So that being a perspective on a lot of things for me is that, okay, we've done very hard things that a lot of people haven't, and a lot of people would not necessarily be able to do in the same way that we did. And I'm like, oh, we already did that. Okay, that's fine. It's no problem. So it actually serves as a very much a boost in terms of many life's challenges, because to me, I'm kind of like, we can figure it out. That I know that if we are fully committed to something, that you and I can pretty much accomplish whatever we want.
No, as much as I love the house, like this house even has a more special connection to you. Do you want to get into that?
How deep do you want to dig?
It's funny that you say dig. I don't even really know how to start. So, I guess your mom had a hairdresser.
Well, so
whenever she was still.
My mom was very much into psychics and palm readers and energy and tarot, astrology, numerology, you name it. It was part of her catalog. And so she would always tell me as a kid, I mean, she would go to psychics and palm readers and stuff, and she would tell me as a kid, she would say, "You're psychic too." And I absolutely was too cool to have a mom that was into these things. And if I was too cool to have a mom that was into these things, I was too cool to be psychic. So it just wasn't my world. And I didn't believe her. I didn't think so. But that didn't, just because I didn't believe it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And so my mom would actually, she appeared to many different people since she passed. She would appear.
Yeah, after she passed. She appeared to people all the time when she was alive.
But she would, appear in people's dreams, or people would text me and they'd be like, "Oh, I heard this song and I thought of your mom. Oh, she was in my dream last night. Oh, I saw this and I thought of her." And it was constant. I loved it. I mean, I never see her that way. I knew that there would be signs that she was around after she passed, but I didn't know what that meant. And so people would reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, she waved at me in the dream, or she winked at me in my dream." And I thought that was so cool. And I'm like, "Oh, way to go, Mom." Like, being cool from the other side. But she had a hairdresser, Gary, cut her hair for 20 years. And Gary, over the 5 years previously, he would call me, and I knew him, and he and my mom are very close. He would call me and he would say, "Your mother's sitting on my couch. What's going on?" And I would laugh, and, I would tell him whatever we were doing in our life and give him life updates and all that. And at the time, it kind of seemed random, but it would be when I was thinking of my mom. And so, and he would call me like clockwork for 5 years. "Hey, your mom's sitting on my couch. What's going on?" Or he would start to tell me things that there was no way he could possibly know. Yeah. And he was knowing things that were happening in my life currently. And he and I were not like regular texting friends. Like sometimes we'd go a couple weeks without texting. Sometimes it was like several months. And he would just like make a reference to something that had happened in that 6 months that I hadn't talked to him, that there was no way for him to know. And so there had been several of these events and things that had happened and confirmations that had happened over the years where I knew that when Gary said that my mom was saying something, I knew that I had to listen. I knew that I had to trust it. And so, as wild as it sounds, right after we moved in, I was walking around the house taking pictures for insurance, and Gary calls me and he says, "Per your mother, there is a fully intact dinosaur underneath the house. Dinosaur fossil underneath the house." And I said, "Okay." And I started walking around the house. He said, "Actually, there's something of value. There's something of value in the walls in the southwest corner of your house, southwest. And I started walking around, and we had just gotten the ship compass. And so the ship compass was in this built-in right where I was standing. And I opened it up, and he kept saying southwest. I open up the ship compass, and it says it's pointing at southwest right there. So, it's kind of going on this treasure hunt. And he said, "No, there's a fully intact dinosaur underneath the house." And I didn't know what this project would look like, but that was last April in 2024. And so I thought about it. I thought about it for months. I kept thinking, I was like, is there really a dinosaur? Like, this is crazy. But then I kept thinking about all the confirmations that I'd had from my mom and from him over the years. And I just like, okay. And I was like, am I going to have enough room under there? How tall is it? What am I going to use to dig?
There's not enough room under there.
I mean, it's under the porch. So ultimately, as I was determining this, I started to get clear answers and get clear pictures as well. And so I actually started to figure out, okay, this is going to be where I dig. This is going to be how it happens. But it was all in my head. I had answered every question in my head, but I had never actually physically dug. And I would like look under the house and I'd, try to explore. Occasionally Gary would pop in with some random text. But ultimately, I was like, I think I got to dig for this. And so I did. And so I pulled back the lattice, I went under the house, and kind of just I'd sit there, and there was not enough room for me to sit straight up and down unless my head.
Hence why I was saying there isn't enough
There's
room.
not
Oh
enough
my
room.
gosh, that's
There, I could sit straight up as long as my head was between the floorboards. And I kind of would just sit and kind of just watch and try to get still. And ultimately, I started digging. And I was able to come up with where I needed to dig. I was able to get the answers to my questions. I started digging. And I actually ended up digging. First, I started with a small shovel, like a kid's shovel. And then, because there wasn't enough room for shovel.
no.
And then, no. Even further, I started with a hand shovel. I started with a trowel. And so I was just under the house digging like this. And Gary, as he would randomly pop in, he would give me a random black and white movie from the 30s. He'd be like, you need to watch this movie. It explains everything. And then would hang up. And I'd be like,
The way Gary talks, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. He reminds me of like that, like, I used to think that it was just a like classic writing trope in a movie where you have a character who explains something in the most like roundabout, like inobvious way possible. And then like at the end of the movie, you're like, if that guy could have been just like a teensy bit more clear, we would have saved like an hour and a half. This thing would have been over in 5 minutes. I was like, there's no way that kind of person exists. And then I met Gary and I was like, you know what? Never mind. Maybe there's something to this trope.
and I kind of just knew that I had to trust myself, that that's something that I was getting really clear. That yes, I was hearing what Gary was saying, but I knew that I had to trust myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I was physically digging under the house, and I had some friends and family that I would tell about it, and I would say, I need some sort of small shovel. My aunt was like, you need a military shovel. And it was a folding shovel, and it was here the next day. And that was a super big upgrade from the hand trowel. And then I got the military shovel. And then as I kept digging, then I got a bigger shovel, and I could actually like dig for real instead of kind of like crouched like this. As I dug, I found so many cool things. I found so many rusty nails and glass shards. I found different types of rocks and artifacts that from different time periods. I found an old fence post. I would find things and I would text my advisory committee and things that I would try to reverse image search it or things like that, but I wasn't always successful. And then people would look and a fence post, and my friend looked at it and he was like, that's a fence post. I mean, this one was very old and rusted and like very disintegrating, but he looked at it and he said, the shape is a fence post. And then you look up like a current fence post and you can see the exact same shape. I found Victorian gutter hangers, and that one was kind of fun. And I'd find like glass shards or pottery shards. I'd find things, I would reverse image search them, and then try to find like the real physical object. So one of the things I found was a glass shard of some type of pottery, and it had sort of green drapey pattern on it. And I had enough of the pattern, and I reverse image searched it, and I found a bowl. I found a pretty big, looks like a bowl that someone would make biscuits in or something like that. And it is very, very, and it was made in the 1920s. I found a shovel. Actually, like as I was digging, my hand trowel had gotten buried. And so I was bummed because then it actually ended up becoming a useful tool because it was small and I could like maneuver. I lost the hand trowel, and then all of a sudden I was trying to dig and like poke around in the dirt, and I hear a clank, and I find another shovel, a like red vintage shovel. It's like sticking out of the ground just a little bit. And it was basically hey, here's your shovel. So I immediately started using it, and I was like, oh great, a shovel. But I broke it in half because it rusted. Yeah. It's so rusted. But reverse image searched it, found one on Etsy. Now we have.
But you don't use it.
I don't use it. It's on the shelf. I found a little wheelbarrow. The thing is the thing I found ended up finding some sort of personal meaning back to me. If I was digging for an hour under the house, I was digging for 4 hours in the digital world. I was researching. I was looking up, dinosaurs in the area. I was looking up about the Underground Railroad. I was looking up about gastroliths, which are stones that dinosaurs would digest in order to be able to chew their food. I learned about
Native American underground settlements.
Native American underground settlements. As I found more things, it kind of inspired me to keep going. But it was really a lesson about finding myself. And so it was like when Camden would go down for naps or after he was asleep or anything like that, I would for like an hour at a time. And some days like I really dug, and some days I kind of just sat there and would just sort of reflect. That's where we are right now.
Well, where we are, you've stopped under the porch, and now there's. Oh,
okay. Well, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to ask more questions or if you.
Well, yeah, no. I just if you want to, you can.
Okay, so this went on for several months. I actually then took a break in the winter over Christmas, repaved our back patio, pulled up all the bricks back there, and put them down in a cool pattern.
Really cool pattern.
In a circular pattern. But I've actually done some past life regression therapy, and I think that I actually have lived on this land before and actually have been attempting to do this multiple times. And what this other healer has told me is that it's not just a single dinosaur. It actually probably is a pretty large population of dinosaurs. And that one of the other pieces that I was digging for was an underground shelter. So the more we kind of, as Gary and I talked about it, and I've talked about it with different other psychics, it seems that there is an underground shelter and that there is somehow a dinosaur connected to that underground shelter. We don't have blueprints. We've never seen it, but that's just the message that everyone is getting. And so based on that, we are about to start redigging, reopening the ground and figuring out what's actually going on. I think the first thing we're going to find is the shelter. I think we're going to I think there's an underground shelter that I believe is in the center of our yard. We're going to open that up, hopefully go inside. And then if what we've been seeing is correct, dinosaurs will be there. And then that will likely lead to a much bigger discovery. So we'll see. I know it's a little bit weird and a little bit unconventional to say this.
You said this kind of helped you find yourself. Like, what did you mean by that?
So I think all along when my mom would say I was psychic, everyone is actually psychic. Everyone is actually has the potential to use their senses to be able to understand what's going on around them. There's a lot of different precognitions, I guess, about what being psychic means. Mm-hmm. But what it means is listening to your own intuition and listening to your surroundings and being able to get messages in any capacity around you. That's probably not the best definition, but everyone has the capability. Everyone is born with these capabilities. And so I actually do have the ability to hear messages that people don't. Some people call it pattern recognition. Some people call it intuitive, whatever. But I believe that everyone should listen to their own voice. I think once you know yourself, you kind of tuning out all of the other noise of what I should be doing or who thinks I should be doing this and what all you focus on yourself. And you say, I know that this is who I am. I know that I stand firm in who I am and that I'm confident in who I am. And I trust there's been enough things in my life. I know that I am going to figure out the solution to a problem. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to ask someone. Yeah. I will always find the next resource to be able to find that problem. And so, what was the original question?
What did you mean by finding yourself?
Finding myself. I mean, even as I was doing this dig, Gary was there as a presence. But a friend even asked me, she said, are you listening to Gary or are you listening to yourself? Right. And I ultimately knew that I was listening to myself. And what Gary was telling me or what I was hearing or any in different capacities was confirming what I already know. And it would be like, it's not confirmation bias because I wasn't looking for the confirmation. It would be him saying something that already aligned with what I had in my head, not like me searching for it, if that makes sense. It was definitely a journey in self-discovery. It was pretty isolating too because, I was under the house, but I was worried. Everyone was worried and I was worried. I didn't want to be buried alive. So I'd ask you to stay out there and sit on top of the deck while I was digging just to make sure. Ellie would also sometimes come out underneath with me, and she identified her own mission pretty early on. And I was digging over here, and that was kind of my main dig area. And she was like really, really focused over here underneath the steps, constantly. I mean, and where the steps are, there's sort of braces and it's not easy, but she would like crawl her little arthritic body in there and be digging under the house. And so ultimately the conclusion that I came to is that she's digging for the dinosaur and I'm digging for the entrance to the shelter. I think that I actually think there's multiple entrances to the shelter, but I wrote a book about it, or I wrote a story about it. And that was...
What's it called?
The Dino Dig. Short story. It's about 20 pages. So I guess that's not short, but it's not chapters or novel or anything like that. But kind of just explaining how I felt connected to my mom and how I would start to be able to hear her voice in addition to my own. And actually, I had always been hearing my own voice. I had to be able to let others in. And so, I don't know. I know people think it's weird. I know people don't believe me when I tell them that I've done this or that this is there. But I know. I know with my full chest that it's there. I have never been more sure of something in my entire life. And so I know. I'm excited to be able to prove that.
Well, it seems like you found yourself. I hope you found the dinosaur too.
Me too.
But I want to say thank you for 10 really great years. You've been absolutely amazing. Been really good partner. Sorry that I didn't show that appreciation the whole time because it's always been there. But I do see you and see all your work, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Whitlock, thank you for acting out with me.
Thanks for having me.